Hello everyone, and welcome back. My name is Shannon and I'm the Wisdom Wench, and I hope you will join me along this relaxing afternoon, drawing, painting and identifying plants. This year I have let my garden grow wild, and each day I see something new. We have the familiarity of the dandelion, with its bright yellow heads, the gorgeous puffball and the dogtooth leaves, the purple dead nettle, the creeping ivy, the sticky cleavers. But there are a number of plants that are completely unknown to me, two in particular that I would like to focus on today. This giant yellow beauty that is completely unknown to me, and these tiny pink flowers that are creeping around doorways. Today I'm going to really spend the time, learn about these plants, to spend some time with these plants and cultivate a relationship with them. I started by drawing the overall structure of the plant. I made sure to sit next to it so that I could keep looking at it for reference. Each time I did, I would see another cool little detail that I really wanted to incorporate. One thing that did catch my eye is that this plant seemed to be a favourite of the snails. Loads of them were sleeping underneath the leaves or munching on the big ones at the bottom in particular. I made sure to draw close-up detailed portions of the plant I made sure to draw close-up detailed portions of the different parts of the plant that I knew were important for identification. The leaves, the flowers, the seed heads. This was lovely, to sit and spend time really focusing in on the detail. I had been outside for hours. I didn't realise it until I looked up and the sky had started to go grey. It wasn't long before I felt the first spitting of rain, and I knew I had to swiftly move inside. The next day I woke up to the sun shining and the plant seemed even greener and brighter than before. I started by making my hay fever tea that if you watched my last video you will know all about, but I added some fresh ginger to the pot and it made all the difference. I set myself up and I got to start the day with painting. I got out this little set of watercolours I had and tried to get a rough estimate of the colours. I had so much fun painting this, it was so relaxing. I didn't worry about lines, I didn't try to make it perfect. I just wanted to have fun and to capture the essence of the plant, and there are two things I really felt like I did. I made a few notes on the plant, its height and bits and pieces, labelling the seed head, the leaves, the flowers. I started trying to look up the plant in my plant ID book, but none of the details were quite right. I felt a little bit frustrated by this, so I put away the ID book and just focused on the art. I moved on to my next plant, this little creeping plant that has been growing under all of the doorways and dotted around my garden and flower beds. I loved the shape of its leaves, I loved the little red outlines on the corners. I loved the furriness of the stems and these bright pink flowers. I couldn't wait to spend time sitting and drawing, and I got lost in this plant. I sat there for I don't know how long, just drawing a singular leaf. And I was so excited when I got to painting. I felt so relaxed, so grounded, lost in art and lost in nature, just as I wanted to be. When my plants were drawn, I was so excited, I moved straight inside so that I could go and do some research. So now we're back inside and we're back at the computer. Now I really want to identify and figure out what these plants are. I've got all of the information, I've got the drawings and notes that I've collated about each plant, so the height, the growing conditions, are they in full sun or are they in partial shade? Both of these are in full. That's also why I've drawn each part differently in sections. The most important parts for identifying the leaf, the flower, and the way that the flowers are attaching to the head of the plant. I want to use this as an opportunity to brush up on the kind of a like revision on the botanical terms for different parts of the plant that I did back in module, I think it was module 2 of my course, and I've forgotten a lot of it. I thought the best way to get back on top of learning this and remembering this is through practice, and this is combining the revision with a bit of art and a bit of creativity, something that I really wanted to do. I looked up the plants in this book. This book was the first ever wildlife book I ever bought. And I bought it when I was, I don't know, maybe 10. That's 18 years ago. I am emotionally attached to this book and I can't get rid of it. So this is the first place I go. I couldn't find something that fits the exact description of these plants in this book. One of them looked really, really similar, but all of the leaves were toothed and these leaves aren't, they're smooth. Another one looked again, very, very similar, but was half the height of this one. I looked at the Picture This app afterwards, which is my favourite app to use for plant identification. It's given me some ideas, but I want to research that plant. I think the bright yellow one, it said is rapeseed or rutabaga. I want to do some research to see if everything matches up and then label all the different parts of this plant, and hopefully we have an ID. So let's get researching. I did some research on both of the plants, starting with what the app gave me. So for the first plant that I was looking at, it is Brassica napus, also more commonly known as canola, rapeseed, making canola and rapeseed oil, even swede. So I might just leave that plant till the autumn and then rip it up and see if there's a swede there. What I really wanted to brush up on was kind of my plant anatomy. So I looked at a few very key words before having a little bit look at what the plants can. Firstly, I looked at a few key words around the leaves. I remembered one word in particular, and that was sessile. And that means leaves that attach straight to the stem, and there isn't a petiole, and there isn't a petiole attaching it to the stem. So these had sessile leaves. The leaf arrangement was alternate, and they were smooth leaves called glabrous. So they are these big, simple, smooth leaves attached at the stem. So I learned a few key words and brushed up on them. The flowers have 4 bright yellow petals. They have a little green pistil right in the middle. The stamen has little yellow anthers and green filaments. So I started remembering a lot of the biology around the plants, and these little terms came back, and I was really happy with that. With this one, the Brassica, it's grown commercially for animal feed, for plant and vegetable oils, and as biodiesel. I haven't looked too much into this because I looked up at the second plant. I know I've seen this plant everywhere. It's growing throughout my garden, it's growing under my door, it's growing up my fence, it's growing in my herb beds. It's always been there. And it always smells kind of funky, but I just didn't know what it was called. And then I looked it up and I found that it's actually, I've gone in my notes, Geranium robertanum. Its common name is herb robert. I've known about Herb Robert, I've read about Herb Robert, I just never put the two and two together, and I am so happy that I did. This is a beautiful little plant. It has a opposite to the sessile leaves of our last plant, it has a petiole, which connects it to the stem. Its leaves are palmately divided, which is another key term I learned, but it means that the leaves are out in a star shape and they connect at one place. Kind of think of your hand. The palm and the leaves kind of burst out into this star shape. The stems are red and hairy, but both the leaves and the flowers of this plant are edible. Then the smell of them is known to ward off bugs, and it's thought that if you crush the fresh flower and fresh leaf in your hand and then rub it on your skin, it becomes a bug repellent. It's traditionally used as an antiseptic as well. So when I realised that this is a medicinal plant, an edible plant, I suddenly had this kind of love and care for this plant that I didn't have before, and it was really lovely to sit and spend the time with the plant, drawing it, painting it, and learning about it. So I did what every normal person would do, and I went out and I got the plant to drink a tea of it. Since doing the research on this little plant that's growing outside of my doorway and finding out that it's Herb Robert and it's a bug repellent and that the flowers and the leaves are actually edible, I went to my flower beds where a bunch of it is growing wildly because it's growing everywhere, and I'm about to remove the leaves and the flower from the stem, and I'm going to put that in a cup of tea and we're going to try it. I'm going to try it because why not? I've I only picked the ones from the flower beds because I know they're safe. I've never put any form of chemical in the flower bed. The ones around the door should be safe too, but if it's a bug repellent, I don't want that going anywhere. I want that staying around the door to repel bugs. It's, you know what, it's doing its job. It has a very distinctive smell, but I've got a bunch of leaves in the cup now, and I'm just going to add hot water to it and let it brew for 5 to 10 minutes, and then we're going to try it. We have our brewed up tea right here. It is a light greenish colour. It smells kind of seaweedy. It smells very different to the plant as it is when it's just kind of growing, which is strange. It's meant to be very bitter. So let's try it. You can tell there's a bitterness there. There's some spice in there as well. Not spices in heat, almost peppery. It's actually really nice tea. But it leaves this feeling in your mouth. Pepperiness is the best way I can think to describe it. A kind of spiciness, but not heat. That's really interesting. Well, thank you so much for coming along with me today over the last few days, to sit and spend some time in the garden mindfully drawing and painting some plants. I felt like it was a really needed respite for me, and I didn't even know that I needed it. And I'm really happy I took the time to rest, and I'd felt a little bit burnt out recently, just a little bit, and I think I hadn't been managing my time that well. But I'm feeling like I'm getting back on top of things, and this was just a lovely way to spend an afternoon, and I learnt quite a lot. So thank you so much for being here with me. Please let me know if you've got anything in your area as well that you're trying to identify, and if you do successfully. And I hope that you all have a lovely, wonderful spring, and I will see you in the next video. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Goodbye, everyone. Okay, I hope you can hear me with the kettle. I'm going to let the kettle boil. I've Gonna let the kettle boil, then I'll stop recording. There we go. I didn't do my mic for any of that, did I?